Good afternoon, everybody, or bom dia. Welcome to this ENRICH in Brazil online session. Before we start, I would give you two practical information. First of all, the session is recorded, so you will get the link to the recording plus the presentations of all the speakers after the webinar. Give us the time to process this recording, and we'll share everything with you. And second information, you can raise your questions in the dedicated chat box here on the GoToWebinar platform. We'll be collecting them during the session and we'll answer at the end during the Q&A session. Okay, we can start. So today's webinar is dedicated to the INNOWWIDE call for viability assessment projects and how we can leverage this EU funding scheme to enable EU-Brazil RDI cooperation. My name is Chiara Davalli, and I'm Senior Project Leader at EBN, the European Business Innovation Center network that gathers more than 200 business support organizations, incubators, accelerators that are supporting innovative entrepreneurship in Europe and beyond. EBN is one of the partners of ENRICH in Brazil, and I'm honored today to speak and host this webinar on behalf of ENRICH in Brazil. So I would, as you already know, I won't be alone today. Together with me are Lena Pisci-Thomas, Director at Global Business Inroads, and Esteban Humano, Business Development Manager at Entergenex Europe. We'll be presenting indeed this opportunity through, let's say, different perspectives and angles. Before entering into the presentation of this scheme, I would give you an overview about ENRICH in Brazil. So the project, so ENRICH in Brazil is started indeed as a European funded project under this Horizon 2020 call for centers, networks of European research and innovation partners, organizations to indeed establish strategic partnerships in science, technology, innovation with selected key countries. And Brazil was one of them. And that's why from that call, we have been working now for 3 years with the partners you see here on the right, coordinated by the Fraunhofer IPK, and with partners from both Brazil and Europe to indeed encourage to set up an organization that is encouraging cooperation among European and Brazilian research, innovation and business organizations, and to establish and deploy a self-sustainable center for Brazil-Europe business innovation cooperation. And basically, this is how we moved, let's say, from, we are moving still from a project lead approach to a new established organization, better association, ENRICH in Brazil, that since December 2019 is indeed an association think tank of business innovation partners in Europe and Brazil, where we discuss about innovation policies. We connect key players and innovators from both sides. We promote cooperation. We build long-lasting partnerships, and we work in order to see bilateral trade grow. ENRICH in Brazil indeed is a non-profit association, simple organizational structure that it's here to make things happen. The headquarters is in Brasilia. We have a branch office in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and we have a European office in Brussels, in Belgium. As I was telling you, it is an initiative funded by the European Union under the Horizon 2020 Research Innovation Framework Program. ENRICH in Brazil is offering a set of services in different areas. These are the four main areas of support: information and trainings, networking, innovation solutions consultancy, and soft landing. As I was mentioning, we have a consortium that is running behind the scene the overall initiative and also the association, but we have this new established association, and here you can see the members from both Europe and Brazil. And I would highlight among these members the soft landing hubs that are accredited organizations according to an ENRICH in Brazil procedure, organizations that can offer soft landing services to European companies interested in addressing or entering the Brazilian market. So far, we have 4 accredited organizations: Porto Digital, Parque Tecnológico de São José dos Campos, Sistema FIEP, and Tecnovates. And we are now in the process of accrediting also another organization in Viçosa. My invitation is to join this growing community of innovation players from both Europe and Brazil. There are different formulas. Again, get in touch if you're interested to join. So from this very quick and general overview about ENRICH in Brazil, you will immediately understand why we are here to present you this opportunity, the INNOWWIDE call. So in Europe, there are several opportunities, funding schemes for European companies interested and willing to go international. I'm here mentioning, for example, a couple of funding schemes like the Smarties one that is specifically targeting the sector of flexible and wearable electronics, where there are grants that are provided to European companies to develop their technologies and their businesses. And for example, under these grants, in this case, we are talking about €100 more or less grants, internationalization is one of the activities that is eligible for them. And for example, in that case, Brazil is one of the possible destinations. The same was for the DIVA project that called a similar call for grants with also a strength on internationalization. It closed last week. But this to mention you that there are several opportunities. And today we are focusing on this INNOWWIDE call because it's specifically meant to support European companies to go international and to cooperate, work together with trusted local partners in target countries outside Europe to develop the so-called viability assessment projects. So each company is getting a €60,000 grant that can and should, must be used in order to indeed develop this VAP in close collaboration with partners in target countries. So you see that working together with trusted organizations in these targeted markets is key, is crucial. And organizations such as ENRICH in Brazil can help you to connect with the right people. So getting in touch with the right player, the right stakeholders in the Brazilian ecosystem that can make your VAP a successful VAP. So if we imagine it as a magic formula, if we put together the networking power of ENRICH in Brazil with the funding, innovative funding scheme of INNOWWIDE, well, we have an interesting formula for European SMEs interested in exploring the Brazilian market and work, of course, with local partners. So this was a very quick introduction, and from here we jump into the INNOWWIDE framework. Will be me again speaking. So just the time to move to the other presentation. Just a short premise that is the following. As most of the people on this webinar today are from Brazil, I'm not going to enter in too many details of the call itself because the beneficiaries of the call are the European SMEs, but I'm going to highlight, of course, main elements that we all need to know in order to better understand what it's all about. But I'm going to focus on the role and the aspects of the call that are relevant for the subcontractors, therefore for partners in these target countries, in this specific case in Brazil. Again, also INNOWWIDE is a project funded by the European Commission under the Horizon 2020 framework program. It is run by a set of organizations that represent international networks like EBN and Eureka, but also national funding agencies, BPI France, DLR, Business Finland, FFG, but also companies, companies like SPI and Standbys. So this innovative funding scheme aims at piloting calls that will bring European highly innovative SMEs to the forefront of international markets by opening 2 calls that will allow them to conduct viability assessment projects in cooperation with local stakeholders. Before I was mentioning a couple of examples of other grant schemes available. One of the differences is that in this case, the INNOWWIDE case, we are following a bottom-up approach. So you decide what do you want to do with these grants, and there are no specific topics to be addressed. So the sectorial scope is open. INNOWWIDE is therefore focusing lots of its efforts in designing, preparing and managing these calls for VAPs. Of course, in assessing the impact of the VAPs, so the granted projects, but also of the overall funding scheme to see if it is something that should be replicated. As I was telling you, it's a new scheme that is now tested. We are now testing with these calls. We are, of course, promoting, disseminating the activities related to the project, the calls, and of course, we are here to mobilize key stakeholders and partners. This is what we are doing today with you for Brazil. And of course, we are using the outcomes of these 30 months of activities to advise and to draw better some research and innovation policy conclusions. As I was telling you, we are implementing 2 calls. The first one was run in 2019. The second one is now open. So the total budget is 7.2 million euro that is going to be distributed among 120 VAPs. So each company, each project is receiving 60,000 euro. And these VAPs are in the targeting markets of developing countries, large emerging economies, and developed countries. So really all countries, markets outside the EU and the associate countries of Horizon 2020 project. We'll see it in a while. As I was telling you, we are working on 2 calls. The first one was run in 2019, was quite a success. We got more than 940 proposal registrations, 379 submitted proposal, and 50 were funded. Interesting, let's say, info about the 50 funded projects. You find the list of all these funded projects on the INNOWWIDE website. 33% of main contacts are female, so 1/3. 6 out of the 50 projects were run by startups. The others are from SMEs, established SMEs. top home countries, so most of the proposal came from Spain, and the target countries, top target countries are USA, India, and Brazil. And that's why we are presenting you both an experience from India, from a partner in India with Lina, and indeed we are presenting one of the companies that got the grant during the first call and is working with Brazil now. Time for me to take a glass of water and for you to watch this short video about INNOWWIDE. Okay, as I was telling you, we are now running the second call that is open until the 31st of March 2020. The end goal is to bring a new product, service, or process to foreign market, possibly through an innovative application of existing technologies, methodologies, or business processes by means of future innovative cooperation projects with entities in the foreign market. Here you see the funding timeline. So call deadline is March 31st. We have April and May busy with the evaluation process. June for the definition of the final results and indeed the preparation of all the agreements, grant agreements, and indeed then we'll start the implementation phase that will end by spring 2021. I've been speaking about these VAPs, viability assessment projects. What do we mean by this? So these are comprehensive, balanced, and coherent set of preliminary, technical, market, legal, and socioeconomic assessments intended to validate the viability of international innovative business solutions along emerging global value chains. So it is the first step of hopefully a long-lasting partnership with the partners in the target country. The blue arrows are highlighting those aspects that are important for you to bear in mind. So the VAPs are really must feature co-creation partnership with a local partner involved as subcontractor. So the co-creation element is core, is key to the INNOWWIDE call. Indeed, as I was telling you, it is the first phase of a potential innovative cooperation project that will last longer, we hope. And as I was already mentioning, the grant is a 60,000 euro lump sum that will be distributed in an upfront 50% tranche and then 50% at the end. The VAP, we'll see it in a while, has to include a wide variety of activities to explore practical, technological, and commercial viability of an innovative solutions. And now it needs it needs to meet the local conditions and demands. So really, how it has to be brought, adapted to the specific country context framework. VAPs will last 6 months each, and as I was already mentioning, it has to be carried out by an SME established in a European member state or an Horizon 2020 associated country. Again, it's important, so for the Brazilian organizations and attendees of this webinar, you can't apply yourself for this call, for this grant, but you are an eligible subcontractor, so partner, local partner for a company, European company, that is applying to develop the VAP in Brazil. Okay. And the project must give insights into the following aspects: technical feasibility, business model, legal aspects, political aspects, investments needed, and exploitation. Geographical coverage, here you find explicitly mentioned all the countries that are eligible for this call, and of course Brazil is one of them. To find all the information about the call, you have a dedicated session on INNOWWIDE website that is under funding opportunities, and you have the VAP application and guidelines. Again, this is particularly relevant for the EU players. Still, I want to highlight some of the aspects that are mentioned in these documents that are very important also for you guys. So these criteria must be met by the applicants. So the applicant SME must have at least one strategic, one strategic target third country local subcontractor to collaborate in the implementation of VAP product and market development eligible preparatory activities. This is key. So is one or even more, we'll see in a while, but at least one local subcontractor. The other two aspects that are important about this slide are point 4 and 5, that none of the participating organizations, therefore also subcontractors, have convictions or have been or are in the process of being declared bankrupt. As I was telling you before, here you find a bit more details about the activities that are funded under this call. And actually funded VAPs must involve combinations of the following activities: co-creation and technology uptake facilitation. Okay, you see I highlighted again here that definition of complementary joint RD project for co-creation of technology adaptation with local subcontractor or other local partners is key. And then the other aspect, activities that can be funded and must be included in your VAP are related to the market prospection, market research, compliance verification, business prospection, trips, and specific promotional technical material preparation. In the guidelines, you find indeed how many of the activities mentioned under each of these, let's say, categories must be included, must be indeed included in your VAP. In terms of evaluation criteria, these are the three main aspects. The three dimensions evaluators will look at: the excellence, the impact, and the quality and efficiency of implementation. Under quality and efficiency, you see that in the VAP, in the application, you have to, so it is important to describe realistically how the beneficiary SME and the subcontractor or subcontractors will work together. And in terms of evaluation, it's a two-stage evaluation process that is run by independent experts. So it's not up to us in the consortium, but we are involving external experts and a review panel for evaluating it, indeed all the VAPs. About subcontracting, this is what I think is quite relevant for you, is that there are no thresholds or ceilings for the subcontracting, but of course an SME that is applying, the European SME that is applying for the grant has to foresee a minimum effort in terms of staff, management, and so on to be allocated on the project. So, but in general, the weight of subcontracting is to be decided by the applicant. Again, duly justify all the aspects you are mentioning in your application. Third country subcontractor must be independent from applicant SMEs, so subsidiaries of the applicant SME don't qualify as third country subcontractors. This is quite important. And indeed, subcontracting partners therefore must be autonomous local entities, and the subcontracted task must be relevant. So you won't have a marginal role. And more than one subcontractor is allowed, but at least one. So you in the application you have to mention one, the main one. Again, follow the INNOWWIDE code text and guidelines to prepare your proposal well. This is an important element. A contract between the applicant SME, European SME, and each main local subcontractor will be required grant agreement stage. We saw very good proposals that didn't make it in the end because of the lack of this contract with the subcontractor. So be prepared for this. This is just a reminder. Again, during the second call, we'll be giving out 42 million euro. Therefore, this means 70 projects that will be granted, each of them getting 60,000 euro, 50% upfront and 60% at the end. This to mention again that subcontracting is definitely one of the eligible costs. I was mentioning before the evaluation process. An invitation eventually, if you're interested to join as experts, you can become an expert as far as you have relevant expertise in areas such as technology, innovation transfer, market research, internationalization, and accessing new markets. Of course, then you can apply, and then the Secretariat will look into the portfolio of experts we have available, and will allocate them to the right, let's say, to the proposals, avoiding any conflict of interest and any issue. For you to know, the evaluation period is going to be between April and May 2020. Again, as experts, you might be involved either in stage 1 or stage 2. So as individual experts or in the panel. So get ready. Find the right partner, either through the INNOWWIDE Partner Search tool or through ENRICH in Brazil, who's there to act as a broker between EU and Brazil. Be prepared. Attend events or webinars that will provide you further information specifically on the call. I didn't go into many details, but next week, actually the 11th of February, we'll have a webinar that is presenting the call in all its details, and we'll be there to answer your questions about it. Of course, subscribe to the newsletter to get updates. Then if you still have some doubts, you can ask to our online help desk, and then go international by applying online till March 31st. You have our contacts here, and I would now stop myself and give the floor to Lina Pisci-Thomas, who's going to present you the experience of global business inroads. Lina, I give you the floor. I ask you to share your screen. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. This is Lina from Global Business Inroads. I'm speaking all the way from Bangalore, India. It's late in the evening, around 7 p.m. And I believe we have a European and Brazilian audience, actually two geographies of the world, which are beautiful and exciting. So really happy to share our story with all of you. So, EBN has asked us to share how we got to know about INNOWWIDE, how we leveraged it, and how we are actually now winners and subcontractors of 2 of the VAPs, along with 2 European SMEs from the first call. So I'm happy to share the story and take any question and answers. Right, hold on. Yeah. Yeah, as I mentioned, the agenda is to share the concrete experiences of business supporting organizations, in and we're going to talk about India and the global business inroad story. We are a technology and innovation facilitation center in India, Bangalore. And we also have a small team working and collaborating with us in New Delhi, which is the northern part of India. So we are just to give you, before I get into what we are doing, what we have done with INNOWWIDE and European SMEs, let me give you a brief introduction to our organization and also the connect we have had with Europe for the last 5 to 6 years. So we are a 10-year-old company now, and we have worked with multiple institutions from all over the world, focusing on technology access and deployment to solve global challenges. So essentially, what in very practical terms, what we've been set up to do is identify innovative technologies from around the world, bring them to India, do the local business model development, the market research, business analytics, help them develop their first pilot projects, and commercialize here locally. So we provide the short-term, medium-term, and long-term representation support for international technology companies, as well as clusters, R&D organizations that want to collaborate and develop programs and projects, and even business, of course, in India. So I think what's important for us to connect with you has been very long and strategic. So when the company was set up, it was very important for us to connect with very deeply with the ecosystem. So apart from Europe, we actively work with the United States and of course UK. I have to mention UK separately now because of Brexit, but these are the geographies in which we actually work with technology companies to help them come into India. So our actual contact with Europe deepened when we were appointed the EBN representative in India to facilitate connect between European incubators and Indian incubators, and thereby the SMEs and startups, whether it's through soft landing, immersion programs, market access assistance, and so on and so forth. We've come a long way since then. This was, I think, almost around began. It's more than 4 years now. And to as recently as January 2020, GBI has been appointed the India node of Enterprise Europe Network. So I'm just giving you the breadth of, how we started, what we began to do. And for all of you who don't know, EEN is basically a business support network. It's one of the world's largest business support network that help European companies internationalize. And and apart from that, our main activities, which is the technology management interface, I'll talk to you about it in a few minutes, helped us win 2 VAP contracts with INNOWWIDE. Who has, I'm the GPI director, and I have been selected by the Director General of Research and Innovation of the European Commission to be one of their expert evaluators. So there are several Horizon 2020 projects that I am an expert that I basically do evaluations on, as well as Eureka that basically helps INNOWWIDE. I'm also a registered expert, and in fact, in the last round, of course, I'm not allowed because of conflict of interest to evaluate projects in India, but I do evaluate projects that look at other markets like US, Brazil, and Africa. And I remember in the last first call, there was some very interesting applications of Europe to Brazil, which I did evaluate as well. I see a lot of similarities between Brazil and India, and see the kind of problems you all are trying to solve with technology is quite similar. So I'm just going to continue a bit about GBI and the EU Connect. We are also a part of some Horizon 2020 projects. One of them is called Renaissance, which is really bringing European smart grid solutions, to India. We are one of the implementing partners of the Europe-India Innovation Partnership, which is really building a network between European incubators and Indian incubators, and facilitating the transfer and movement of European and Indian startups, as well as creating a EU innovation platform in India. So these are, I don't want to talk about each and every one of them, but what I'm really trying to share here is always seen a benefit with building a long-term relationship with the European Union, the different member states, the R&D institutions, the non-profit organizations, the companies, because we believe that when you systems, it's not just about one project and funding. The soul, what really makes these economies tick. Why do we need each other? And the important question here is that both our geographies, whether it's Europe and India, we both need each other for economic development and for the benefit of the world. With all of this in mind, one of the key developments is last year in 2019, we took the strategic decision to actually set up GBI in Europe as well and have some representatives work on behalf of us to further develop opportunities in India. So this is how strategic and important Europe has become for us, and all of this we have done just in the last 4 to 5 years. So it's even though we've worked with European companies from the beginning, inception, but the strategic focus and development of the relationship started just 4 to 5 years ago. I'm not saying it takes this long, but it's something worthwhile in developing. If you are a R&D or business or private consultancy in Brazil. So again, I want to talk about what GBI brings together. We bring together technology companies with technology adopters, in India, whether it is corporates, utilities, governments, any kind of use cases. We do a lot of open innovation for governments and corporates in India, and we help with tech development, and most importantly, we engage with various ecosystem players, as I mentioned. Something I want to spend a little bit of time on. So this is the marquee service of GBI. This is why we exist. I mean, so if we have a European technology that comes to us, this is really what we've been traditionally offering them, even before INNOWWIDE or the VAPs came into sight. So we have an online platform which we welcome our technology companies to display and discover technologies. The online platform helps technology companies connect with technology adopters. So once they do this, they sign up for more medium to long-term services, which includes market validation, anything from doing the local viability assessment, market research, identifying use cases, building the ecosystem. Because for any technology to be successful in a market, we believe that just a simple sales approach and finding a partner doesn't help. You need to really create your ecosystem of all kinds of partnerships, new customers, manufacturers, distributors, government layers of financing. So this is really, we look into all the aspects for the long-term deployment of a technology. Generally, what has been happening traditionally all over the world is international countries bring delegations. The delegations come into countries like India and Brazil. They're there for 3 days, maximum a week. They meet 30 to 40 people, and then after they go back, nobody knows what to do. What about the follow-up? So one of the things we believe in is that it's very important to not just fly into a country, have a week experience, and immerse yourself and go back. But before you do that, you need to prepare. then come into a emerging market like India, have support of trusted partners, and we believe we are one of them for India. And most importantly, the follow-up, with the technology company, really developing on the contacts you built on that trip, making that into a project, converting that into an invoice, making it into a real business is what we help our technology clients from Europe do. So, and most importantly, what we have done to keep this all sustainable for European technologies in India is we have set up now global technology experience centers. I'm saying centers because now we have 2 in Bangalore, one which is in our office and one which is within a institution. And there we invite our technology companies from Europe to actually physically demonstrate their technologies, pilot, and develop use cases in India as well. So this is our technology management interface, and this is really where we were able to bring the connect between European technologies, INNOWWIDE, and the Indian market. So we talk to multiple companies from Europe. Emerging markets like Brazil, India, and China, they are looking for technologies to solve, many of their problems. And as I said, GBI, of course, there are many technologies, but GBI focuses on, technologies that have sustainable development, that are UN Sustainable Development Goal related. So we look at areas like energy, water, waste, transport, infrastructure, and look at climate change mitigation, improvement of public health, and so on and so forth. So we are at GBI, we have an ecosystem and know a number of Indian SMEs and large corporates that are seeking innovative technologies. And this given the scenario, we know European companies seek new markets to improve growth and competitiveness. But traditionally, they also lack the human and financial resources and know how to develop new markets. So a tech SME is focused on building and reaching out to his customers nearest to him. A European SME is not generally thinking about going as far as Brazil or thinking to go from Germany maybe to Estonia or something like that. So I think what INNOWWIDE is doing is helping really bring about a mindset change and empowering that with financial resources as well. So one can actually appoint the human resources and the local partners to move ahead. So that's why I say that, here's where the EU funding schemes come to help European and global ecosystems. So, and I think most importantly, what I've come to understand is that EU tech companies, they need strong, well-established local partners. And over the last 10 years, we have interacted with multiple companies. And in fact, currently, GBI is, having various levels of discussions with at least 50 European tech companies for various kind of support that they require. And now it becomes so easy for us, given that we have the service, which we have done. We have so many case studies that we have implemented, and to really work with these European tech companies to submit proposals for INNOWWIDE VAPs. So, the EU companies, it's a win-win, as even Chiara mentioned. You have the EU company, you have the local partner, and there you bring in the financial resources for scoping, market research, business model, and viability development. At the end of the day, these are some of the basic things that any innovator from Europe needs to engage with for a new market. You can't just dive there and start selling. You need to really understand the viability, who could be your partners, and at what price could you be selling your solution in India. So these are the things that INNOWWIDE really helps you finance. So to us, it's been a very practical tool to really facilitate what is much needed between Europe and India. So I'm going to move much faster now. I know I'm taking a lot of time here, but I think I've just mentioned these points. So what we have done is we shortlisted the companies from Europe, for the first call, really, which are, very innovative, extremely relevant, and have a very big impact on India. Because when you say impact in India, that means the viability in India will be good. And we already, obviously, we are a 10-year-old company. We have experts who know, which are the large market opportunities in India. So when we talk to a European company for the first time, we can only, just very quickly advise them whether there is a potential for their solution or not. So, so when we had to choose technologies for the INNOWWIDE finding, we looked at, innovativeness, relevance, and impact, for India. Yeah. So, and one of the things we also did, at GBI, is even before we got to know about INNOWWIDE, we have been launching what we call the GTEC challenge. In 2018, we launched our first challenge where we invited European SMEs to really develop Indian market opportunities based obviously on certain criteria. And we got about 10 applications, and we shortlisted 2 startups to really help them in India. So one of those companies now are the ones that we applied for the first INNOWWIDE call that we eventually won. So what I'm really trying to share here is when you engage in a process with Europe, you can maybe connect the dots. And it's quite interesting that the European Union has and the Commission has a close idea of where are the gaps and have really filled this in this particular case. And in fact, for the second VAP call, which we knew that was coming up, we launched a second challenge. We got several applications, and now we are working to submit applications for the second call as well. So success stories, I just want to tell you a bit about, the 2 VAPs that we won from the first call. One is with the Portuguese SME, and the second one is a Belgian SME. And what we have really done for them, what we are doing for them is, business development, stakeholder development, quantitative and qualitative analysis, tech evaluation, valorization, meetings and workshops with local stakeholders, and organizing market visits for them to India, helping them find partners that they can demo their solution with, and also build a local business model. So that's really what we were able to do in the first call. As I mentioned, we are working on the second call now, and one of the things we thought about is through this connection that we have with you, we'll be happy to look at maybe partnering and training Brazilian organizations as well, if you are interested in our support to do the needful. With this, I just want to thank you all, and look forward to any questions that you may have. Chiara, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Lina. Thanks a lot for this overview and presentation. I suggest we do so. I asked Estevao to present now his company, Intergenex Europe, and their experience with the first INNOWWIDE call for VAPs. Intergenex Europe actually got a grant to work with Brazilian partners in the agro-food sector. I collected a few questions, but I would answer them all at the end. Estevao, do you manage to keep it to 5 to 10 minutes presentation?
Yes, I believe I can.
Okay,
it's a short presentation. I'll try to be really straightforward. Hi, hello everyone. Well, I'm here to present our case, how we got to INNOWWIDE and why we looked for it when we decided to develop a project in Brazil. Intergenex Europe is a biotech startup. We started in February 2018. So we are nearly 2 years old. And as all startups, we have an ambitious goal. We want to help shape a better world. And how we are doing so? Well, we target the first issue we decided to target was this. Hold on. There you go. target the mosquito issue, the mosquito-transmitted diseases. This is data from 2015, but it's still valid today. Mosquitoes, they are know that excluding humans, killing humans, that's the animal that kills most humans in the world, mostly through dengue fever, malaria, yellow fever, and now have Zika, chikungunya, and a lot more diseases. We know Aedes aegypti, who transmits dengue, for example. Only this insect transmits 27 known diseases. There might be others, but these are the ones we know. So it's a big issue, and our solution for it is musticide. We have 2 presentations of it. It's water dispersible, highly effective biolarvicide. It's not toxic for other species. It's only target specific to the mosquitoes. What does it do? It is a combination of BTI, that's a well-known biolarvicide, and an enzyme. There's a proprietary enzyme that we are extracted from the gut of the mosquito. And when we feed it to the larvae, it stops digesting the food and dies from starvation. It's a highly effective system. It kills 100% of the larvae in up to 6 hours. So, and it's water dispersible, so it doesn't need to use oil as the most common larvicides used today. Well, this proprietary enzyme is our main technology. It was developed with a partnership in the United States. And well, that's the first target problem we decided to help solve, create a green solution to the mosquito issue. And with that in mind, we decided to target the agricultural issues, like the insecticides for mosquitoes. We have most of the pesticides used in the agricultural sector are toxic, and that's a huge issue for 2 reasons. One, our food is getting more and more chemical products that get to us through water and through the fruits and vegetables that we buy. And secondly, the insects, the plagues, are getting more and more resistant to the toxic products we use. So we need alternatives. We decided to use to test our technology, the enzyme of the gut of the mosquito, and develop and apply the technology to other plagues. So we chose plagues from Portuguese agriculture. That's where we're located. We're located in Alentejo in Portugal. And we developed an R&D project with 2 universities in Portugal, 2 research centers in Portugal, to find the similar enzyme in 3 local plagues that targets olives and fruits. Well, Portugal is, well, although agriculture is an important, has an important economic impact in Portugal, and we see most of the olive oil produced in the world comes from the Mediterranean area. We know that Brazil is a much larger target. And well, since I'm Brazilian, so I have roots here, I started working here. I'm in Brazil at the moment. We decided to expand our project and create a similar project for Brazilian plague. The thing is, I have a background in technology and health, not agriculture. So we like contacts here. We don't know the market. We don't know the plague that the most damaging plagues that there are. So we decided to look for a local partner to help us develop. And when we get to agriculture in Brazil, we thought about Embrapa. It's the main is a government company that's focused in developing solutions for agriculture here in Brazil. It has it's a very well-known company both in Brazil and worldwide, and it works as a reference point here in Brazil when it comes to agriculture. So we were trying to find a connection to Embrapa, and we heard about INNOWWIDE. So it was the timing was perfect. We managed to reach Embrapa through our connections in Portugal, and proposed to create a project to develop bio-specific pesticides for Brazilian plagues. So we discussed with them. They suggested 3 to 6 plagues we could explore, considering the biology of the insect and the impact or the economical and environmental impact it could have. And now we managed to, including the INNOWWIDE project, the first phase of the development. We are going to try to identify which target species is most likely to have a similar enzyme that we can use to develop a biopesticide based on the 3 to 6 species that Embrapa suggested. So our INNOWWIDE project has a R&D project with Embrapa. That's to minimize the risk. So instead of going off script and trying to find out randomly which plagues we should target, with INNOWWIDE we are going to test 3 plagues and see if one of them has the specific enzyme or a similar one. And if none of those work, we're going to start with 3 other plagues. And this way you have more targeted development, considering that to develop biopesticides, it's a long and expensive project, and we are a small company. We thought this would be the safest approach. And additionally to the R&D project, as INNOWWIDE proposes, we have the IP research and FTO to know if there is anyone using or researching or developing something using our technology or something similar, to see if there is nothing that will stop us from developing our product. And we managed to get market analysis and research, identify local partners to develop the product, to join Embrapa and us to develop the product, and to develop a market penetration strategy once the product is ready. And the agricultural framework to register the product to get market approval in Brazil is really complicated. It works with 3 ministries. So we hired a consultant to help us map out where should we present, what kind of information, which tests they're requesting. There is a complicated framework to register the product, so we had the consultancy to help us do that as well. Why we chose Brazil and why Embrapa? As I mentioned, Brazil is one of the largest agricultural markets in the world, the 3rd largest producer. I'm not first to third, depending on the list on the year, and is one of the leading countries in agri-tech. So it has a lot of startups, a lot of research, developing solutions for the agricultural market. So we naturally choose Brazil to try to develop a project. And we went to Embrapa because it gives credibility to us, as we are a small company with no contacts in the area, with no experience in this area. We don't have a connection, and they are highly regarded as an expert company in the area with knowledge of with a large knowledge of the plagues we have here in Brazil. So we looked for them, and they are helping us design how our project will go moving forward. Actually, the last activity of the project is a workshop between us, Embrapa, and some of the consultants we hired, and some partners proposed by Embrapa that will help us develop our project and will bring us new expertise to the R&D part, the early stages. Embrapa will help us identify the enzyme and test it in laboratory and field test. But the next stage is the market penetration stage, and to present the product to the market and to sell the product basically to the farmers. We'll need both a nice network of distributors, and we'll need the credibility that Embrapa brings, saying this is a new product, but it works. It's a nice solution a green solution to the plate. So basically, that's the scope of our project and why we chose to develop it in Brazil and with Embrapa. Like I said, the short presentation. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is my contact.
Thank you, João. Okay, so we're running a bit late, but I would answer a few questions that have been raised during the presentations. Just 1 second, I share again my screen with you so you can see the questions and a few comments. First of all, the very first comment is for Estevão. If you indeed you have a very strong partner, if you need more connections or any further support, ENRICH in Brazil is actually there for this specific reason, to support European companies to get connected, to expand their network and so on. So this is the scope of the ENRICH in Brazil Association and the overall project, one of these scopes. Having said this, if we look at the questions I received, they refer to, so I would start from question 3. No, unfortunately, this call is for the European companies, for the internationalization of European SMEs. Nevertheless, I put the question here because you can see that there is a Canadian startup offering cleaner and safer mining technologies, who's interested in building distribution ecosystem in Brazil. So maybe some Brazilian attendees of this webinar might be interested in getting in touch. If so, let me know by email and I will forward your contacts. No, the Canadian startup is not eligible. It is for the European companies. Eventually, but as you are interested in the Brazilian market, should you be interested in the European, in working together with European companies, but in Canada, that would be another story. Having said this, ENRICH in Brazil, soft landing hubs, ENRICH organizations, how can be put in contact with the potential candidates? 2 ways. We don't know the candidates, of course. We are receiving the applications and we won't open them and so on. INNOWWIDE offers a partner search support, matchmaking support for European companies that have a clear idea about the market they want to address, but they don't have a clear idea of the partners they should work with. And so they come to us asking to be introduced to relevant partners. And this is why INNOWWIDE and ENRICH in Brazil are partnering together, because we will ask ENRICH in Brazil to help eventually European companies to get in touch with the most relevant organization in Brazil. ENRICH in Brazil can count already on 4 soft landing hubs, accredited organizations that being members of the association and the ecosystem will be at first, of course, are the ones that we know the best, we know the services they offer and so on, and so we'll be redirecting some of these requests to you, the soft landing hubs. if relevant to the request we receive, and eventually to other organizations that are in these in the ENRICH community. That's why I'm inviting those of you who are not part of the ENRICH in Brazil community to join and to get in touch to know how to connect with us, both from Europe and from Brazil. Having said this, we have decided that in case we receive a relevant number of requests from European companies to be introduced to Brazilian companies, we'll organize a pitching session for these companies to pitch their projects to, again, Brazilian partners, and therefore being able then you can go back to them eventually. The other option is to do also another webinar to pitch the soft landing hubs, in this case, to European players and attendees. So this will be discussed. I invite the soft landing hubs who are on this call or on this webinar today to let me know if you would be interested to do the so-called reverse pitching, so presenting your potential services, your organizations in a webinar. This is, I'm happy to organize. Again, we can't guarantee connections with companies, but we can facilitate this. This was actually the scope and the aim of today's session, to let you know about this opportunity. As Lina explained from the GBI experience, these cooperations, these partnerships have already kind of a bit of a story behind. There are already ongoing talks, there are already ongoing activities, and these type of grants are kind of consolidating, enabling this partnership to actually take place. My strong advice is for you in Brazil, if you already have contacts with European companies, you have ongoing conversations on potential collaborations and so on, to go back to them and tell them about this opportunity, because they are the ones who can get the money in order to make this collaboration happen. I know some of you already have some ongoing talks, so this could be a very good opportunity to make things happen further. Let me see if there is any other question that came. Okay, there is a question about how long does it take to close the deal. If you mean between a Brazilian organization and a European company, the sooner, as soon as possible. The application must be submitted by the 31st of March 2020. Can be done later. So so please take your actions now. In terms of the agreement for INNOWWIDE, I was telling you 2 months for evaluation, June for the legal administrative stuff. This means that yes, end of June we'll have the contracts for the granted companies ready for signatures. That's it. For today, I would recommend you the following. So if for the Brazilian organizations that are not part of ENRICH in Brazil, get in touch in order to start this to join this community. For those that are already part of the association and the community, please let me know if you would be interested in pitching your organization during our webinar to present the soft landing hubs. We will do this anyway, but indeed maybe we can anticipate in order to have this done the next couple of weeks, so to take advantage also of this open opportunity to attract also new potential partners from Europe. If no other questions, sorry, just one, I have to check here if there is anything else. No. Okay. Yes, I see. Okay, question here. There are no other calls. Actually the INNOWWIDE project is a pilot scheme. So the pilot is run in 2 calls. The first one took place in 2019. This is the second and last one. So basically, this is your chance. And then we got this question about is it okay to have 2 hubs, one in Europe and the other in Brazil? Yes, of course, this is exactly the scope of the call, to make you working together. But the main thing is that the INNOWWIDE call is to help European SMEs to go international. So to help them uptake their technology, services, products to a new market. In this case would be Brazil, with the support of your organization, Soft Landing Hub, for example. Hope it was a useful conversation. I would thank the speakers. I would thank Lina and Estevao for their time and their talks today, their presentation. I think it was very useful also to learn about the experience of GBI and also the perspective of a European company that is now working with a Brazilian partner. I would ask you to, as I was telling you, I'm going to share recordings and presentations by email as soon as possible, together again with this link to this follow-up survey. We ask you to really take 3 minutes of your time to please give us your feedback, because this will help us improving our services to the ENRICH in Brazil community. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, please email us. Send us an email, get in touch. Bye, everyone. Bye. If you're still online, no, the speakers are not online anymore, but there are nice messages for them. Thank you again. Bye, everyone.